The protests in Nigeria are marked by widespread civil unrest, driven primarily by severe economic hardships and frustration with government policies. This series of demonstrations, collectively termed Days of Rage, reflect a deep-seated discontent with the current administration's handling of the economy. Central to the protesters' grievances is the removal of fuel and electricity subsidies, which has led to a dramatic increase in living costs. These policy changes have caused fuel prices to skyrocket, contributing to a significant rise in inflation, particularly in food prices. For many Nigerians, the cost of essential goods has become prohibitively expensive, exacerbating poverty and food insecurity. This economic strain is felt most acutely among the lower and middle classes, who struggle to afford basic necessities. Additionally, the government's perceived extravagance has further fueled public anger. Plans for purchasing a new presidential yacht and additional aircraft, along with extensive budgets for renovations and new vehicles, have been criticized as misallocations of resources, especially given the country's dire economic situation. These expenditures are seen as emblematic of a disconnect between the political elite and the populace, who are bearing the brunt of economic austerity. The protests have been met with a heavy-handed response from the government. In several cities, including Lagos, Abuja, and Suleja, security forces have used tear gas and, in some instances, live ammunition to disperse crowds. These confrontations have resulted in casualties, with multiple deaths reported in clashes with police. The government's deployment of significant police and military personnel underscores its determination to quell the unrest, though it has also been criticized for the use of excessive force. Despite the government's attempts to address some of the economic issues through measures like distributing food aid and subsidizing the cost of rice, these actions have been largely viewed as insufficient. Protesters continue to demand more substantial and systemic economic reforms, greater transparency, and more efficient governance. The call for better living conditions and economic stability remains at the heart of the demonstrations, reflecting a profound desire for change among the Nigerian populace. Overall, the protests highlight a critical juncture for Nigeria as citizens push back against policies that they believe exacerbate economic inequality and undermine their quality of life. The government's response and the eventual outcomes of these demonstrations will likely have significant implications for Nigeria's political and economic landscape.